All right, good morning, everybody. I had a comment yesterday. I saw a friend of mine. He said he lives in a particular community in Long Island. And he says he wishes that he could have a shul in the community where he lives, where he could openly learn the teachings of Nachman Breslover without persecution. Previously, he lost a position. He was an assistant rabbi in a shul, which gave him a house and everything. And because he taught Breslov Torah, he lost that position. So then I answered. I said, well, if someone would help me out, I'd open a bais medrash in that town. It's been a dream of mine, actually, to open a bais medrash in one of these towns. I've had an eye on different places. Had an eye on where I would want to open a bais medrash. I had offers in Brooklyn. I really don't want to live in Brooklyn. I have a minute to open a bais medrash in more Hamisher neighborhood. I don't know how much liach it would be as a Baal Tshuva. I probably would have a minyan, just to be honest. I'd probably be able to exist, particularly, if it's somewhere where where it's affordable and it's close enough to my current positions. So then I'd be able to survive like that. But remember, I asked a tzaddik about that. He suggests I should stay where I'm living. Although other tzaddikim disagreed. That's part of the issue. We go to different places, you get different answers. But the one who said to stay where I am was someone who I really admire much more, I guess, even though I admire both of them. So then, but still, I had this dream, particularly where I feel the kind of place where I would belong would be a place that's more or less along the modern Orthodox lines, and to open a Hasidic style or Hamisher bais medrash. So whether it's West Hempstead or Great Neck or Teaneck or one of these type of communities, and I don't know if I would have a big shul, but I would probably have a minyan, and probably be able to manage. That's what I'm thinking. So, I heard that Baruch Hashem in West Hempstead there was Ingerman who opened such a bais medrash for the local Ingerman, someone, doesn't go with Chassidish Levush, but he opened a bais medrash where they daven Nusach Sfard and so forth. And then a friend of mine who's from that neighborhood, he said, oh, but there the Balabatim don't need such a frum rav who's going to tell them to be quiet by davening. They need someone who's going to let them talk by davening and turn a blind eye to it, but is going to dress with the Chassidish Levush so they could be proud that they daven in their shul with the rav with the Chassidish Levush. This is what a friend of mine said. I don't know how true this is. Maybe yes, maybe no. Probably something like that would be more matzliach if a place that's a little bit less serious. Although the fact of the matter is, when you go to other communities in general, the people who are attracted to that type of a bais medrash are people looking for something more serious. Like I think of Jamaica State. So there you have very choshev Rebbe, the Turker roof, and it's very choshev Balabatim there, and it's not a place like where Hishvuger was a big a Gadol B'Yisrael, the Himner roof. The Himner roof there, it's a Hamisher neighborhood. I remember Rabbi Belitsky, Zechron Levracha, he used to say, our holy Main Street, like, that's where we looked up to, living in a smaller community a little bit further down Union Turnpike, and then you get to Main Street. That's our holy Main Street, So Jamaica Estates, again, it's not that far down Union Turnpike, but a little bit further down. But there you have, I have very good friends who daven there, Turka, and they say, it's a very serious place. There's no talking in shul, that's neither here nor there. But again, people have a certain pride that they daven in a shul where the Rav dresses in a rabbinical style, like even the Litvische, if the Rav wears a Hamburg and a frock, it's also like you feel like you have a real Rav, even if it doesn't matter, yet you might have a very choshev Rav, and he dresses more like everybody else dresses. It's a different story, they say Rebel Wines on this inside. So he was a Rav in Monsey, so he jokes around. He says, in Monsey, even the plumbers have 2 buttons in the back of their overalls, So he said they asked him to put on a frock, a kapota, and he said Prince Albert frock, which is a Litvische style. And the Lubavitch, they also wear that. Just everybody wears that Shabbos. All the light, that's what they wear when they get married, and they'll get a very expensive kapota in Lubavitch. So it's funny, like Lubavitch, the kapota costs what the Shreimel costs in other places, and the hat in Lubavitch might cost what the Bekisher costs in the Shreimel wearing neighborhoods. So. So anyway, this so Rebel Wine, let's look inside, very choshev, So he said the Balabatim approached him that he should wear a kapata, and he said, well, you put it, why? You want me to wear it so you feel proud of me? So you put it on, I'll feel proud of you, But he didn't see any need for it, It was, it's, I remember I asked about, there's a Cheskel Podbolevich, passed away in 1939 in Richmond, Virginia. His yahrzeit coming up soon, a month from now. And I used to go to his kever, and he and his wife, they never had any children. He passed away fairly young. I think she remarried because there's an empty kever next to him. I think that was supposed to be for her, and she remarried. I don't really know those stories. I asked some of the old timers if they remember. They said, I said, what the Rav looked like. He had a beard, he wore a long frock. He said, he wore a kapata. So whatever, it's just it's neither here nor there. But you see, you have these little shtiblach that pop up, and sometimes they become very matzliach in these little different towns. And so I had an eye at a T-neck, Great Neck, whatever. So whatever, one of these towns was a friend of mine who is an assistant rabbi in one of those places, and he was lamenting that he couldn't openly talk of Breslover Torah. So I said, I have one Rav who I'm close with, who's Breslover Mashpia, and he said, if you're really a chassid of Nachman, you could be anywhere, Mesek Shemayim Shamata, but Yesh Ohineka, that's a big thing Reb Nachman talked about, in Tehillim and the Psalms it says, if I go up to heaven, you're there. I go down to hell, you're there. You know, and you know, the main thing isn't Rabbi Nachman. The main thing is the Bernei Shalom. You know, so. So anyway, you know, that's not why I'm making this video. But I've dreamed like this. I would like to open up this medrash. At this point in my life, you know, when I was younger, I could really go anywhere. At this point in my life, first of all, my children, they're used to Chassidish chinuch. They would probably want to stay the same style. You know, as they have been. So probably with the same friends, but we, you know, we were close, but you know, so that's why we were thinking of different places where to go. But really, ultimately, you know, I have to realize I'm in the right place, and that chulam zich that I want to go somewhere else. But if there was a call to go somewhere else, it was an offer, I would pick up a move. And if it, you know, the question is also, what am I doing something? You know, I told the story. Rabbi Fishbane tells he had a neighbor who was a rabbi in a non-mechitza shul, and he would daven all week by Rabbi Fishbane, and he said, you know, it says le'alechem levada yichya adam, kol motzei pi Hashem yichya adam. Man doesn't live by bread alone, but rather by all that comes from the mouth of the Lord does a man live. It says in Deuteronomy. And so the this rabbi, he said, bread alone I get by my position, but the word of the Lord I get here. So if I have a bread alone position, I could get up. I could be a rabbi in a shul that's not my style. It would be for bread alone. I would even maybe consider changing the levush a little bit, at least in public or something. I don't know, or at least, you know, what depending on the shul and things. Yes and no. Although personally, I feel, you know, part of the reason why I personally wear this levush, I'm talking very personally now, major reason, and you know, this isn't why I started, I'm just saying to think about it, what, you know, you know, the hashkafa behind it to a certain extent, even if it comes from other places. I remember I was trying to be Makarev a Jewish comedian when I was Rav in Richmond. He invited me, he wanted to introduce me to a friend of his. He was listed among, I don't know, 40 under 40 in Richmond, in town, you know, up and coming people, whatever. And he was a comedian, Jewish comedian, and he had a friend who was also on the 40 under 40 list, and that's how they met. And he was a Galach, he was a Pentecostal preacher. And he wanted me to meet him, so whatever, we met in a coffee house. And then the pastor said to me, you know, he'd like to go to bars and things and start conversations with people and try to schlep them to go to church, you know. That's how he would do his missionary work, which is a nice thing. You know, it reminds me of like Rav Grossman's Lukas-Inside, you know, how he would go to the discos, you know, things like that, you know. I'm sorry, I just paused a little bit because I want to hear the what do you call it, the Writer's Almanac. It's an interesting story about Goethe. It's very interesting, actually. So I went to meet this Jewish comedian, and he had his friend who was a Pentecostal pastor, and we went to a coffee house together, and the pastor, you know, like I said, he would go to these places. He would go to these to bars and things to try to teach the Bible. And he said that he was a little bit jealous of me, because he said when I walked in the door, everyone knew I was the rabbi. And he walks in, nobody knows he's the pastor. So on one hand, maybe that's a good thing, because he can sneak in and nobody knows he's a pastor. He doesn't have a collar. He was wearing a t-shirt and jeans. That's how he dresses, because Pentecostal pastors don't have a particular garb that they wear. They don't have a particular canonical garb, any vestments or anything. So it's interesting. The Pentecostals, they identify very much with the Jews. Certain Pentecostals keep kosher and so forth. I remember seeing on TBN once, 20 years ago, they had a Pentecostal preacher on, and he was like, he was talking about semantics and how people, in different places, different words mean different things. So he said, and if they would say that the pastor rode in on a hog, well, we would know around here that he met a Harley Davidson motorcycle, because this Jewish boy don't ride no pigs. And he wasn't Jewish. He wasn't like Jews for Jesus or anything. He was just like I said, the Pentecostals, they identify very much with the Jews. Trying to figure out if this guy in front of me is a cop or not. He has a little thing on the car that says police interceptor, but he also has dealer plates. Let's just go around. No, that's not a cop. To let him pass me. Oh, actually, I know who that is. That's who I bought this car from. This also was a cop car. So anyway, I think that's the same car I had. I'm not sure. I don't know. No, it didn't have a police interceptor on it. So anyway, the point I was making was that, so I was scared for nothing all the way since Monticello. And although Ashray Adam of Hakim Talmud, maybe over here as a cop sometimes they hide over here. I don't know. Alright, it's good to be Mufachid Talmud. So, so he said that he had, he was, in a certain sense, he was jealous that I had, garb that identified me as clergy that he didn't have. Although I said to him, maybe you can sneak around easier without it, And the question is, what are you trying to accomplish? Because, when I was Rav in Richmond, one thing they said is, when I go to the college campuses, maybe I shouldn't dress in this levush because it's going to scare them away. But then I had certain people, the people who I had influence on, the people who did come to shul occasionally, the people who did grow in their Yiddishkeit, generally it was because they were particularly attracted to this levush because it was so exotic. However, in New York, it's a different story than it is in Virginia. In Virginia, I was exotic. Here, I'm, probably annoying. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say. Except when I'm in my own community. Today I have a chasna. My Rebbe is making chasna. The Kalavar Rebbe is making chasna tonight. So I brought my Streimel with me. The Rebbe is making chasna. So on the way home, I'll go to Monsey. I'll go to the chasna. But I had anyway. I forgot why I'm making this video anyway. But the point is that there are certain people who like to have a particular bush. Even, I'll be honest, when I work in the non-orthodox settings and ministering as a rabbi, I much prefer to wear a robe, like a graduation robe or something. That's what the rabbis wear in England, and certain places, Reform and Conservative, would dress like that because I feel it represents you as clergy, at least. Now that I don't wear in the street, but when I'm ministering to people who are not Orthodox, personally I feel that that's more appropriate. I don't know, rather than to wear a suit. In fact, it's part of, if you look at how like a lot of Hasidic rabbis wear struckers, and that's really, it predates the Hasidim. Really, you can find other people with similar levush. It's almost identical. The struckers that the rabbis wear and Rebbe Sheinbuch wear, it's almost identical to the like the Doctor of Divinity robes, if you look at that. Having velvet going down, the sleeves. It's like I said, it's almost identical. It's slightly different, but it's the same. And you see certain pastors, it looks almost the same. Same thing. You look at some of the levush, even in various churches, the similarities are quite striking. Like there's a picture of the Pope on Palm Sunday, and what he was wearing almost looked like a white bekishe, but it had more buttons. But it was a very similar style, and then he had the palms was like a big lulav, And the question is, who's copying who? It's known that certain churches specifically copy Jewish practices, even later Jewish practices, post-biblical Jewish practices. For example, in the Orthodox churches, they'll have a vigil on the night of Pentecost in Eastern Orthodox churches, and they specifically say that that's because the Jews have a vigil on the night of Pentecost, that we have Tikkun Leil Shavuos L'Havdil. And thing is, that's a practice of later origin, and who's copying who. This also comes into question, with people who question things like the Schlüsseltal and things like that. Certain friends of mine are very much feeling that that's idolatrous, and it's very problematic. And my question is, who's copying who? If indeed anybody's copying anybody. The Schlüsseltal, I don't think anybody's copying anybody personally, but it is what it is. I don't know. So gas is getting more expensive. Oh, it's because of the hurricane. So anyway, it's interesting because it's like I was talking about this friend of mine who was talking in a particular town. He wanted to this or that, whatever. So that the Rav there in the town. Now it's interesting. I'm not sure if that Rav he was hired by a particular shul or. But I remember, so he had to make a comment. This particular Rav, I had some personal issues with him, but I'd like to be friends with him. I'd like to put those things aside, but there are different issues that I've had with the people there, with him personally from before he came to that town. So anyway, this Rav he put a comment. And then he quickly erased it. It wasn't there anymore. But I saw it because when you put a comment on Facebook and it mentions it, you get an email, and then you erase it, it goes away. So he said, "You with your political views," and he made a claim that I was a member of a very extreme group, which I'm definitely not, even though I know people from there, and I haven't been in touch with them in years, but. Particularly because I'm very upset about certain things that they do, to be honest. So I didn't go out of my way to seek them out, maybe, although I know them, and if I would see them, I'd be friendly with them, but I totally disagree with them, but for different reasons. But this person, this rabbi, this Rav, he said, because I identify with this particular, because I'm a member of this very extreme group, which I'm not, I wouldn't make it in their town. Now the thing is, first of all, I know that town well before this Rav knows that town, because he's only moved there 2-3 years ago. And I grew up near there and with friends from there. So I know what really goes on there. I know the roots of the community there. And there have been people, now I'm not an extremist, a Torah whatever you want to claim. I'm far from it. And even though my children attend Satmar, I'm not really a Satmar Chassid. Although I'll go to the Satmar Rebbes for advice and brachas and things. Both of them I'll go to, and my kids go to both schools. And I'm kind of proud that my kids go to both schools, and I feel I'm making a certain statement by doing that. Not a major statement, just a personal statement. Not to put down anybody else who has a different approach. It's just not a statement of what's right or wrong, but a statement of who I am that I'm making by doing that. And I I really, I think about, I have to sit down one day and just translate. There's an article, it was in, I forget which magazine, it was Moment Magazine, one of them, was an interview with Rabbi Yitzchak Leibovich. And I know certain people have different views about Rabbi Yitzchak Leibovich, but personally, I feel the same way that my Rav feels, Rabbi Fishbein feels, that he's Molav Godesh. He's probably the biggest Talmid Chacham that we have year-round in Sullivan County. And I know we have tremendous Talmidei Chachamim in Sullivan County, but Rabbi Yitzchak Leibovich is something special. He's something different. But also, he has his things, But there's an interview with him that's just incredible, where he talks about, what it means, different things, He has all these different things when he discusses, whatever it is. So Rabbi Yitzchak, he said, they're in Galite, they come to him and say, I'm tired of being being a Satmar Yid. I want to be a Breslover, I want to be a Lubavitcher, I want to be this, I want to be that, Square, or whatever it is. And so Rabbi Yitzchak said, Satmar is not the name of a Hasidus. Satmar is just the name of the town where my Rosh Hashiva was Rav before the war. That's what he said. And Rabbi Yitzchak said that what we call today is Satmar Yid, that's just plain a Yid. You don't need anything. But the thing is that it's not excluding anything either. Meaning if you sign your name to Square, then you're signing that you're not going to learn Breslov, you're not going to learn the Ketzos, you're not going to learn the Ramchal, which is fine for them. But why? It's not for us, Basically, that's what I'm saying. So it's the same thing. All these different groups, when you identify with them, you're excluding everything else. But he said, but Satmar, you're not really excluding anybody. And it's the thing, like Rabbi Siegel talks about, going to Nitra dying, and we talk to him and learning, and going to other Satmar Dayanim, other Dayanim associated with the Saftas Rabbanim. And he would talk to him and learning, and then accidentally something came out of his mouth from Rav Ovadia Yosef, And then he said, I know that, and I'm thinking about that too. And he was shocked. He said, meaning you learned from Rav Ovadia Yosef, even though he was the chief rabbi of Israel? He said, of course, why not? Why wouldn't I learn from him? Meaning if you were an extreme Meshuggah in the Torah Karta, maybe you wouldn't. But if you're a normal Hungarian Rav, what's wrong to learn from Rav Ovadia Yosef? The fact of the matter is, Rav Ovadia Yosef wasn't such a big Zionist either. He openly in his Shilas and Tshuvas called the founders of the state of Israel Rishoyim. So that has to do with something in this particular town I'm talking about. I remember a particular shul kind of changed. I think maybe this Rav I'm talking about is the Rav there now. I'm not sure exactly what. They changed the name or whatever, but at a certain point, this was a very frum shul, a very choshev shul in that town, and they had a very, very fine Rav from Ner Yisrael. And I remember a friend of mine, he said, someone they made a kiddush and they brought a cake, and the cake had the Israeli flag on it, and this friend of mine, his father was Israeli. He said, you can't have that in here. This is not that type of shul. That's not to say it's a Satmar shul. It's certainly not a Torah Karta shul. It's not an anti-Zionist shul. but it's not a pro-Zionist shul either. It's a parva shul for everybody. And that's who I am, personally. I have issues with Zionism. I don't really have issues with the state of Israel. I have issues with Zionism. If the state of Israel would stop calling itself a Jewish state, I would have zero problem with it. You know, they quoted the Tulsa Yitzhak Rebbe saying that if there was a total Shemir Shabbos in the state of Israel, he wouldn't have a problem with it. And then he denied saying that, and I doubt he said that. Although he's a tremendous eye of Israel, but my approach, I try to emulate more like the Tulsa Yitzhak Rebbe, like, you know, he would go to Rav Elyashiv, and Zechor Livrocha, you know, even though Rav Elyashiv was also with the Rabbanu, you know, people don't know that Rav Elyashiv was a religious Zionist, even with the Shtreimel and everything. And I'm not sure why the Bnei Yeshiva took him as a posek so much, you know. Lafuke, the Tzitz Eliezer, you know, meaning for some reason, you know, they were both, you know, Bnei Hachi, and they both, you know, could learn or whatever. But why was the Tzitz Eliezer considered to be more Zionist than Rav Elyashiv? I don't know. You know, Rav Elyashiv really, you know, I mean, but look at Shlomo Zalman. Shlomo Zalman was more parv, but he could go everywhere. He could be, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach could sit with Mizrahi, with Aguda, and with the Badat, and be totally accepted by all three. You know, and that's how it's supposed to be, you know. But you could still have your own shita. You don't have to sell out, be someone else, just to, which is what a lot of people do. You know, the question is, mutar l'shanos mipnei hasholem. All right, so maybe just keep quiet. I never preached about Zionism from the pulpit. I don't think any time in my life. It's just people knew I have my own personal shita, and my main feeling was that in any shul that I was in, I want everybody to be welcome. But I feel just as comfortable quoting from the Satmar Rav and quoting from Rameir Kahana. Rabbi Kook was a different story. But but even if there's something nice from Rabbi Kook, I would still say it. But I'm very picky about what I would say from Rabbi Kook. But I also wouldn't say everything from Rameir Kahana either. But I don't put Rameir Kahana in the same category as any of these Gedolei Yisrael, not in the category of a God of Yisrael. That's not who he was, but he was a Rav in a shul, he was a Choshev Talmid Chacham. And yeah, I had different ideas than him, but I have respect for what he stood for, you know. And also for his learning, and particularly his Inyanu, Ahavas Yisrael and everything. And the fact of the matter is, in general, he had respect too. Meaning, you know, there are so many people who, you know, Balabatim, they think they want to be such big Zionists. But if you learn what Rameir Kahana said, they wouldn't say half of the things they say against Satmar. Rameir Kahana said the Satmar of Shita is Torah, and we have to learn it, and we have the right to have a different Shita. We don't have a Sanhedrin Bisman Hazeh, and everyone has to follow their own Rav and their own Das Torah, and that's how it's supposed to be. And people don't realize, but he had nothing but tremendous Ahavas Yisrael for Satmar. He believed differently. He had a different Shita, but that's how it's supposed to be. Meaning, especially we're in Golis and there are different Shitas, and we're supposed to learn from everybody. And the thing is, that's what you saw by Rameir Kahana, and that's what you see by, I'm not saying the Hamon Am, I don't know what goes on in the yeshivas, but I'm talking about the Ehrliche Talmidei Chachamim, Dayanim, that I know who have affiliation with Satmar, generally are some of the most open-minded people I've ever met. I'm saying among Orthodox Jews and Orthodox rabbis, the Satmar have a much more open mind than the modern Orthodox. And I would exclude the open Orthodox and modern Orthodox, but then the open Orthodox now, they fell into this pit of politics of, I mean, first of all, they won't give up on Zionism. That's like, you're open about everything else. Why can't you be open about Zionism? Meaning, I feel comfortable with open, frank, honest discussions about issues of egalitarianism, feminism, things like that. But they will never have an open mind about Zionism, for the most part. There are individuals who are different, but I tried to join their rabbinical organization, what they call it, the IRF, the International Rabbinical Fellowship. I sent them a check. They sent it back. I said, no, you're not for us. They said, why? They said, we can't tell you. I asked a friend of mine from there. He said, I don't know. It's not like we have very high standards here, So and it's hard to know. It's like, is it because I'm too far to the right or too far to the left? Like, that's the question. And I had an interview lined up in a shul that was identified with that movement, but then they canceled it, and that, I'm pretty sure, is because of Zionism, unless there's something I don't know. Meaning, I don't know if there are rumors about me that I don't know are true or not. I don't know, if anybody wants to tell me, why I'm blacklisted. Is it only because of the Zionist issue? Is it because, I had a job, and I'm willing to take a job in a shul with no mechitza or even egalitarian, as long as certain halachic parameters are met, and as long as I personally don't have to violate any halachas, and I don't have to daven with them, even though maybe halachically that could be fine, but that's my own personal minhag, because I don't daven like that, I could daven by myself and put on a show for them. But that's lechem levadai. Is that a reason why? I mean, I know that would be a reason why Young Israel wouldn't take me, but why wouldn't the Open Orthodox take me? I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I work now close enough to YCT. I should really spend time there and sit and learn there or something, find a chavrusa there or something. And try to develop a fellowship with them. But the thing is, again, there's politics, this visceral anti-Trump nonsense. That's all that this anti-Trump and everything taught me is how silly I was with my anti-Obama stuff. I'm honest, because even though I'm very upset about certain things that took place, there's really only one issue, one or two issues, but one major issue that I'm really upset from Obama, and everyone else gave up that fight, so it's not what to talk about, And the thing is, their side is pushing for more and more. I would be willing to be mevater to a certain level, not to be mevater my own personal religious beliefs, but to be mevater to overlook as a libertarian, approach to this particular issue. But they're still pushing and pushing and pushing because they have an agenda. It's not liberty. It's not about freedom. It's not about equality. It's about pushing an agenda. I don't know. But anyway, I guess all this being said, I'm just being very candid, which is a big mistake. But I'm opening up my heart. But the question is, I don't know. I mean, I would be willing I guess anywhere within a 2-hour radius of Muncie, I'd be willing to relocate if someone wanted to open this medrash, or if there was a position for Shabbos anywhere, But it has to be a position where I'm able to be Shomer Shabbos. Meaning, I was shocked. I applied to conservative shuls, and they said, well, and they're not members of the United Synagogue, so I would feel comfortable. But they said, no, we can't handle a Shomer Shabbos, because there was one case where there was two shuls that merged together, but they kept their buildings, which I never heard of, and so the rabbi would have to travel from one to the other. I was like, no, that I can't do. And then there was another one which was local, and so I'll sleep in the shul. And they're like, no, you can't sleep in the shul. I was like, well, how much are you offering? Maybe I'll whatever. And, the last rabbi would drive up Friday night and drive back down to Rockland County, right next to Muncie, and this is what they. It's like Heisman or Rabbi Heinz, I don't know, but or I'd be comfortable in a traditional shul, but they won't take me because, and I don't consider myself a strong anti-Zionist. I have issues with Zionism, but I can appreciate Elu ve'elu, and the thing is, if I was in a shul with no mechitza, I wouldn't really be pushing to get rid of the Israeli flag and things like that, because unless they don't care. But if I wouldn't make an issue out of it, because I understand these are the people I'm dealing with. Meaning when I was at Kolemis, people asked, "Well, did you feel you made a mistake?" I said, "No, because I'm trying to attract everybody." And there were college kids, to be honest, who didn't want to step in foot. They were willing to step foot into a shul with a mechitza, but they were not willing to step foot in a shul with the Israeli flag. So why should I alienate those college kids who wouldn't go anywhere else? And this is what we're here for. This is what you hired me to do, and this is what I'm accomplishing. And when I'm dealing with someone who's very pro-Zionist, I would never talk, someone who comes from like a conservative Jewish background. They're the most Zionist movement of the three movements of Judaism, the three major movements of Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox. So Reform was initially anti-Zionist, and Orthodox was initially and still has within its ranks the anti-Zionist. Reform still has a small anti-Zionist movement, but mostly has accepted Zionism. But conservative was always Zionist, and I'm thinking of one guy, who was like an old-fashioned conservative Jew, but he's like a young kid. He's younger than me, but like the old-fashioned type conservative Jew type, and I wouldn't talk against Zionism to him. I approached it. There's a wealthy family. I approached his mother for a donation for the shul, and she said, "Well, I'm a very strong Zionist." I said, "This shul, it's essentially a Zionist shul, and you're not supporting me. You're supporting the shul, but I'm not. I don't consider myself an anti-Zionist as much as I consider myself, open-minded about different ideas and being willing to discuss these issues in an open forum." But most people don't want to hear it. Most people are just so viscerally, emotionally attached to Zionism, as I was when I was a kid, until I learned better, And it's funny because, there's one Rav who was upset at me because I left Zionism, and I said, I learned about anti-Zionism in your shul, and not from Satmars, from Lakewood boys, because you brought in a seed program, and the Lakewood boys, and I was talking about Meir Kahana, and the Lakewood boys said, "But don't you know about the 3 oaths? The Shlosh Shavuos, you don't know about this?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I never heard of this." And I fought it for a while, and I realized, and even for a while, and then eventually, I found where I fit in, and I'm still dynamic. I'm not staying one way. I'm learning and growing and trying to find my way in the world. But I'm tolerant and welcoming of people who are different. I don't know. Well, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. Let's discuss. I mean, again, like I've said in other places, I don't have so much of an issue with the state of Israel, but like recently I was fighting with someone who was like, it's time to go home and this and that, and like if you talk to people who actually did it, I mean, there's one person who I'm close with. He said it ruined his life that Zionism ruined his life, and he was fairly successful, and he had his connections, and he could have survived, and he got up and he lived in Israel for 17 years, and it absolutely ruined his life. And he said he wished he never heard of the state of Israel, but he's afraid that if he stands up and warns people not to make Aliyah and so forth, that he could get killed, and like Samarov said, that the Zionists are the Choshedun Shvichas Damim. They killed the Han, and Meir Kahane, his whole life, never thought that it would be an Arab who would kill him. He always thought that the Israeli government would have him killed, because there were threats. They said there were people in the secular Zionist movements who said, let's make Meir Kahane the next Han. And a friend of mine told Meir Kahane, he said, they'll do to you what they did to the Han. He said, yeah, I know. And the thing is, personally, I wouldn't be surprised if the Israeli government wasn't behind Meir Kahane being killed. These are the type of things they do. These are, the whole story. We know what happened with Rabin. We know that with the Yemenite kid, he didn't do it. That Yigal Amir. We know Yigal Amir didn't kill Rabin. We know that Peres was behind it. Everybody knows that. But they want to make the Frum Jews look bad. People know that Baruch Goldstein wasn't a terrorist, and he wasn't a racist, and he loved his Arab neighbors, but he put a stop to a pogrom. I mean, the way he did it was probably wrong, but he was convinced of what he did. The way he did it was wrong, though. Especially to go, but it's hard to say. Definitely the way he did it was wrong, but the Israeli government was also, they were going to turn a blind eye. If the Israeli government would have stood up and did their job that they claim to do, calling themselves, the Israeli Defense Forces, and they would stand up and defend the Yidden of Hebron, Goldstein wouldn't have had to do what he did. But the Israeli government created that situation. That's what really happened. So I don't know. By Zayda Alav Shalom, he sent money to Goldstein's widow. By Zayda Alav Shalom, he sent money to Yigal Amir. Whatever. It's so hard to believe how long ago all this is. It's 20 years coming up since Zayda's Patira. And how much my life has changed, and yet how much my life has been formed by those experiences. I don't know. The Baruch Shalom Shav Rachmanis. Baruch Shalom should send Mashiach already. We know we're in Mashiach Zeit. It's such a difficult time. There's so many fights. The Yetzer Hara is fighting with every Jew. But we have to recognize that there's one Rebbeinu Shalom, and I don't know. But all right, whatever it is. Thank you for watching. I don't know why I made this video. The main thing I really want to say is that I'm not Neturei Karta. That's the main thing. I don't hate them. I remember one person who at one time respected me, and then someone was spreading rumors that I was Neturei Karta, and I said, to me, I have as much to do with Neturei Karta as I have to do with Reform Judaism. And that's really how I feel. Not that they're Reform, but I have as much to do with them as I have to do with Reform. Meaning, I'll also be nice to a Reform Jew. I also, and I disagree with them, and I can respectfully disagree with them, the things I disagree with, and I can still be friends with them. The thing is, I think certain Reform Jews I'm going to have a bigger impact on than certain Neturei Karta, because the Neturei Karta are extremists, and Reform have their own extremists, but there are certain people who just grew up Reform and have found their way out of it and found somewhere else that's better for them, which is good for them. For certain people, Reform is exactly where they have to be. We have to admit that. There's not a one-size-fits-all for every Jew. I think that's the biggest message that I have to bring out, is that there's not this one-size-fits-all for every Jew. If the me who I am now would have been, the one thing I would have done differently in Richmond is I would have made more gayers. I would have made more gayrim, and I would have done them very quickly, and not make them schlep to New York. And even though that would have made bigger machlokes, I think it would have been the right thing to do. That's one thing I would have done differently. But the Bnei Shalom has their own plans, but there's certain people I would have converted them within a month. Or I should have converted them right away because they were ready. But they really didn't want to, and that's what really happened. That's the truth. That's the truth. Whatever it is, I don't know, it's hard to say. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. And actually, I probably would still be there if I would have done that, I think. Because we'd have our minion, we'd have our people. And I should have not been scared of everybody else. I just did my own thing, which I did anyway. When I was young, I didn't know what I was doing. But I still don't know what I'm doing. And I'm still young. Alright. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. And